All right, our top story today, I'll get into it in just a second. We have, now you're a little too excited, calm down. We have a report here, finally, with a little bit of research into something that you and I have speculated on for years. How much are we spending on the health care of people who aren't citizens here? Illegal immigrants on top of that. And so we have the first report because we just passed the law in the last session that included the fact that they would even gather this information. Before that, we didn't know how much illegals were costing us. We could guess. We could do some research projects in there. But we actually have a checkbox on the form now. Are you an illegal immigrant? And so just out of the people that actually participated and were willing to admit it. So you got to know this is a big undercounting here. Last month, $122 million. This was for people not legally present in the United States. They visited hospitals in Texas about 31,000 times. 122 million is the cost. Now, we don't know who covered that cost. Maybe they paid in cash. Maybe they somehow offered up their insurance. But the norm is they don't pay. If you're an illegal, you don't want to give them your credit card info. If you have a credit card, they'll be able to track you down. If you do have insurance through your employer, you don't want to give them that info because they'll be able to track you down. A lot of times they just walk. And I've had people who've worked at hospitals out in Bug Tussle. Yes, we have hospitals out there. They just do still have a hitching post, but we have hospitals, leeches and stuff. But they said another thing that they noticed is sometimes people who would come in and they looked Hispanic, but they didn't even have an accent. They seemed like they were very Americanized, but they would say they were illegal just so they could skip the bill. They've, seen other people do it. Maybe even family members do it. So in the most extreme undercounting scenario possible, because I was playing you this time last year, doctors on the show saying, we're not going to comply with that. We're going to give people the care they need, and we're not going to violate their rights. And this is a violation of HIPAA laws. And blah, blah, blah. We don't believe in that. Woke. So, there's a bunch of doctors out there who didn't count their patients. So this is just the ones we know of, $122 million. We'll get to that in just a second. I want to start, though, because I got some feedback from shows in the previously this week. And I do not mind if you pitch me ideas. In fact, I love it. Hey, you should have so-and-so on your show. Or, hey, did you see this article? And even if I've seen it 10 times, I'm just thrilled. I'm flattered that you care enough to even bother to send. Or when you saw that, you thought of me. That's pretty cool. That makes me feel kind of special that you think about me at all. But I had one that kind of ticked me off. So now we have to have a chat here. Someone sent me a guest idea. This dude would be perfect on your guest because upcoming is National Salad Day. I was like, and you thought of me? You thought of me on National Salad Day. Is it National Make Fun of Salad Day? Because I need to work on my branding here. I need to be getting, if it's National Bacon Day, you can send me a guest idea. National Brisket Day. Hell, National Dr. Pepper. National Salad Day, though? I don't know why that ticked me off, but I feel like in Office Space, the whole Case of the Mondays thing, this is what I felt like.
Let me ask you something. When you come in on Monday and you're not feeling real well, does anyone ever say to you, sounds like someone has a case of the Mondays?
No. No, man. No, man. I believe you get your ass kicked saying something like that, man.
Huh. All right. So just keep that in mind. I was insulted. I don't know why I took that so hard. Usually I don't get that emotionally invested in it. But don't send me tips for National Salad Day. All right. Now back to our top story. Because at the same time, we had the report on the hospitals costing you, the taxpayer, just in one state here. This is just in Texas, $122 million. We had another spectacle that was happening on the floor of the Texas House of Representatives. Dustin Burrows was presiding. There's a new bill proposed by a Democrat that creates this new scholarship fund, which instead of taking the surplus money that they've taken from you and giving it back to you, Let's find a new way to spend it. So they're coming up with all these programs. They did the National Institutes of Health, but the Texas version, obviously not national, but like the Texas Institute of Health. That's not what they're calling it. I forgot what it's called. But it's the same thing as the NIH. They created that. They created a few other new agencies, and now they're just going to give away your money. Instead of giving it back to you, here's what we're going to do. We're going to come up with a new scholarship program, and we're going to give it out to students that we want to. Because the guy that proposed the bill is House Bill 2249, proposed by State Rep Diego Bernal. He's a Democrat from San Diego. This is the Texas Teacher Recruitment Scholarship Program. Offers up to $40,000 to individuals pursuing teacher certification. But Mike Alcott from Aledo, he's a Republican here in the WBAP listening area. Hey, Mike. I know he's probably in Austin. But he says, hey, there's nothing in this bill that requires the recipients to be citizens. So I'm proposing an amendment requiring the scholarship recipients to be U.S. citizens. Well, the Democrats didn't like it, but also Dustin Burrows sided with the Democrats to kill that amendment. Dustin Burrows. Good Lord. Can we get rid of this guy? I have the list. I had to send it to about 24 people since yesterday's show. I have the list of rhinos. I have the list of people, the 36 Republicans who you sent down to Austin, and they sided with the Democrats, and they got this Dustin Burrows guy in as speaker, and then they're siding with him on all these other votes. The budget, the creation of these dumb agencies, this terrible scholarship program. So it got shot down, and the citizenship amendment wasn't the only one Burrows killed. Two more conservative amendments were tried to throw on this bill. One of them was protecting student teachers from vaccine mandates. That one got struck down. Dustin Burrows sided with the Democrats on that one. And then there was another amendment that got shot down, barring recipients of this scholarship fund from engaging in anti-Semitic protests. So could you at least not support Hamas while we're taking money from the taxpayers and giving it to non-citizens? No, not even that. So the Democrats in Austin and their rhino friends, so this is a bipartisan screwing of you, the taxpayer of Texas, are sending a bill to the Senate tomorrow. Or I guess that might be today because this was written tomorrow. Maybe today. That takes money from you, gives it to non-citizens, even if they support Hamas and they protest and rally in support of terrorist groups, instead of giving you your money back. Think about that. Next time you make your mortgage payment and you see that big escrow with all the taxes and insurance on there, think about that. That's what you're paying for. Some of that's going to these guys. Some of that's going to these hospitals. A lot of it's going to these schools to take care of non-citizens. Do you realize how much smaller your tax bill would be if it was only for fellow Texans? Laura Reese is on with the Heritage Foundation. And Laura, I knew it'd be a big number. Am I right to think that this is an undercounting, though?
Yes, you are right, because people are going to be afraid to report it, or as you say, deliberately not ask the question. It's a form of don't ask, don't tell, because they don't want people to be turned away. They don't want immigration to be enforced. And so therefore, if the data is not very well known or accessible, then it is harder to justify trying to deport or enforce our immigration laws in their minds.
Okay, so we don't know how these costs were charged off. We don't know specifically how much was put on the backs of the taxpayers versus if someone paid cash, or maybe they might have had insurance somehow. Are we ever going to get that number on how much it actually cost us?
I mean, it's unlikely, but I know that hospital staff complain about the number of uninsured and, other patients having to cover their costs to subsidize it. So I think people can be pretty confident that it's not insurance that has been paying for at least this population to a large extent of that number. But I mean, just think about the number, 121 million in 1 month. That's over 1.4 billion over a year. And that is just one type of service in just one state. That doesn't even account for the cost of education and detention and housing, et cetera. So it's been, so many billions of dollars for each of these states and large localities particularly during the Biden administration. And that's why Americans are so fed up with what that administration did and continues to support mass deportation.
So, well, when did we start doing this? This doesn't sound like something our grandparents would have put up with.
Right. I mean, largely it was the illegal numbers really started to increase in the 70s and has just been on a glide path ever since. And then hitting every historic number in the books of every type the past 4 years. Why? Because people look the other way. People try to justify it and say, well, they're coming for a better life, or they've been here a long time. I mean, if you think about it, it's rather perverse. You acquiesce for years and years. You accommodate for decades. That is why we had, the number that was always quoted pre-Biden was 11 million illegal aliens here. He added another at least 11 million. And it's because people just acquiesced to illegal border crossings, to people working without authorization, to people staying here longer illegally and then using that as a defense. Well, you can't remove me because I've been here so long. But more eyes are starting to open with all these criminal aliens and gang members that the left are trying to defend, let alone bring back into the U.S. And a lot of Americans are like, this is absurd. Now you want due process? So they're exposing it, which is a good thing. But in the meantime, we're paying a lot of money for all these people who aren't supposed to be here. And more data is good in that regard because then it can drive to policy to prevent illegal immigration, both in the states but nationwide also.
Well, that's also one of the eye-rolling aspects of people complaining about the DOGE cuts. They're cutting all this funding for research and, curing dementia or cancer or whatever. It's like you're not interested in research. You don't even know how much we're spending on illegals until, last August is when the governor's executive order came out. Y'all never thought to look into that my entire life, how much illegal immigrants cost us through the hospital system? Oh, yeah, you guys are real concerned about research.
No, they're not concerned about research or preventing or cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. They have clearly benefited from slush funds galore, and that's what DOGE is exposing. And it's fantastic. We need DOGE to continue to do that. I think each state needs a DOGE, and so Americans can get more of their own money back into their pocketbooks.
Love it. Well, Laura Reese, I've always said that if we cut off all these social services, if we stop giving them free health care and free education and this new scholarship program that they're just pushing through in Austin and all these other goodies, a lot of these people would self-deport. They wouldn't have, if they came here in the first place.
That's right. You got to take away or prevent the 5 things that illegal aliens want. You prevent the entry. You prevent them staying here longer. You prevent them working here, sending money home, and having their kids or bringing family here. And you're going to drastically cut illegal immigration. And in this aspect, what we're talking about is preventing the staying here longer desire that they have. If you stop facilitating the illegal residence, the illegal stay, then yes, they're going to go someplace else.
Laura Reese, Heritage Foundation, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right, coming up, I'm going to ask you, shouldn't we just cut all this off? Shouldn't we cut off free hospital care? And I'm not saying a sick person shows up and you just kick them in the gutter and let them die. No, we'll give you health care, but we're also going to send you the bill, and we'll call ICE to deport you and send you home too. And so I think, how many of these people would self-deport? Half of them, if they weren't getting free school anymore, they weren't getting free health care anymore, they were actually getting the bill for the services that you're paying for. How great wouldn't that fix? I would guess half. If you just took out all the goodies, half. But if we got rid of these services, if we stop making it so easy and comfortable and, by comparison to where they come from, luxurious to be here, how many of these people would stay? Wouldn't that deter some illegal immigration if they knew if they went to the hospital, they'd at least get a bill, if not deported? If they couldn't just stick their kids in school for absolutely free at your expense? Would as many people come here? Of course not. Would as many people stay? Of course not. Would they even bring their family? Probably not. So I think this should serve as a wake-up call to all the people who are saying, well, I don't know how much they cost us. Well, now we know, at least in the hospital front. There's been no intellectual curiosity for the government to figure this out. Of all the things they keep records on and study, they've got money to study shrimp on a treadmill, but not how much illegals were costing the taxpayers at hospitals. There was no count of how many illegals are in our federal prison system and in most state prison systems. In fact, Ann Coulter was writing a book on a completely different topic. And in one of the chapters, she was just doing her due diligence and trying to come up with some numbers like, they're only this much percent of the population, but they're this percentage of the prison population. And she couldn't find the numbers. So she actually had to go write Adios America because her going down the rabbit hole of how little interest we have in keeping up with how much illegals cost the taxpayers was worthy of a whole book. So we now have a little inkling of it. Is that enough for you? And then you also have the Speaker of the House siding with the Democrats in the state legislature. Instead of giving back some of your tax money from the surpluses that they've been running with property tax relief or some other way, they're going to give it to other people. They're going to keep it, give it to the people they see fit. They would like to control how that's spent, not you. So they proposed a new program. It'll be a scholarship for teachers. That's the ticket. If you want to come here and you want to study to be a teacher, because we need teachers. Well, another state rep realized that they didn't have any exclusionary language for immigrants or even illegal immigrants and made no mention of citizenship status. So he proposed an amendment saying the purpose of the bill here, the conditions of the bill, need to be restricted solely to citizens. And they're like, no, we'll go ahead and strike that down. And so here they are, like at every turn, they're siding against the taxpayers. Hey, if illegals come and go to our hospital, we're required to treat them because we're not monsters. Shouldn't they get the bill? There's a lot of politicians out there and a good chunk of voters who say, no, that should be on the taxpayers. We'll just cover it, whatever it costs. Well, what about their school? Oh, yeah, you can cover that too. Well, what about the scholarships? Yeah, you can cover that too. And then you go so far as to now we have the 2 judges that have gotten arrested this week. And these are comically bad cases. You've heard some of that in the top of the hour news update here. The other one is this guy that's in Las Cruces, which is sort of the El Paso metropolitan area, but it is across the border just north in New Mexico. This guy, a judge and his wife, had a 23-year-old illegal alien from Venezuela, which federal investigators believe is affiliated with Tren de Aragua. He was living in their guest house. And I don't mean he was crashing for the night. Like, he's been there for months. The Dallas Express was showing him in Christmas photos. And so he finally got taken away not too long ago. And then they circled back and got the judge and his wife, put him in cuffs. This other one, this lady in Wisconsin, this is one of the not believable sound bites that you're going to hear today. Pam Bondi was explaining it on Fox News. This doesn't even sound real. This is indistinguishable from satire, this judge.
This guy was in court being prosecuted by a state prosecutor for domestic violence battery. He had beat up 2 people, a guy and a girl, hit the guy 30 times, knocked him to the ground, choked him, beat up a woman so badly they both had to go to the hospital. And John, it's so rare for victims to want to cooperate. They wanted to cooperate. They were sitting in the courtroom with the state prosecutor. The judge learns that ICE was outside to get the guy because he had been deported in 2013, came back in our country, commits these crimes, charged with committing these crimes, victims in court. Judge finds out. She goes out in the hallway, screams at the immigration officers. She's furious, visibly shaken, upset, sends them off to talk to the chief judge. She comes back in the courtroom. You're not going to believe this. Takes the defendant and the defense attorney back in her chambers, takes them out a private exit and tells them to leave. While a state prosecutor and victims of domestic violence are sitting in the courtroom.
Wow. So they can't stop siding against you. They just can't help themselves. They'll take your money and spend it on these people. They'll keep them from going to jail. If they do get deported, they'll go down to El Salvador and beg to have them back. So this is what the Make America Great Again. This is why this resonates so much. This America First idea. Because clearly some people do not have America first as part of their philosophical underpinning. But how long are we going to put up with this? How many of you agree with me? No more free school. No more free health care. No more Social Security. Some of them get on Social Security checks. No more disability. Definitely no more food stamps or welfare of any kind. Pull the rug out from under these people until all of our citizens are taken care of. Then maybe we can have a conversation about how much freebies we're going to give people who are here illegally. We have reached the point of suicidal empathy. And I wish I could say I coined that term. I think I first heard it in Parasitic Mind from Gad Saad, but it's kind of caught on. The idea that we're going to be just fine spending $122 million a month for healthcare for illegals. That's kind of a good explanation on why it's so damn expensive for the rest of us and why your property taxes are so high. They've got to make that up elsewhere. But I say take that away. Take away anything they get from any social program, whether it's a food stamp or a Social Security check or disability check. Take away the free schooling. Watch half of this problem solve itself. I mean, the women and children will almost all go back, and so we'll be left with what? A few men of working age that have snuck through the system and are sending money back. It's better than what we have now, isn't it? 800-288-9227. This is D in Dallas. What do you think?
Well, you were talking about the health care and how much we've spent. My husband served in the military. And back when I had my kids, we weren't, the military spouse wasn't eligible for a epidural. But I worked labor and delivery as a nurse, and I took care of illegal aliens, and they got everything. Everything.
But you didn't.
But I didn't.
While your son's active duty military. Oh, my goodness gracious. Well, didn't you know a guy who could hook you up with a spinal tap or something?
No, because I had my child on base, and I worked off base.
Well, that is a terrible story, and I thank you so much for sharing it with us. But when my brother-in-law worked at the hospital, that was like 20 years ago, he has all kinds of stories like that. He has stories about how people would pretend to be illegal just so they could get the freebies and get the heck out of there and just stick everyone else with the bill, whether it's passed on to the taxpayers or they have to raise the price of everything else for the other patients that are actually paying the bills. We're getting the cost of that. We're paying for these people. This level of empathy. How come none of these programs work in my favor? Thank you, D. This will be Felix in Dallas. You're next up on WBAP. What do you think, Felix?
Yeah, I agree. I served proudly for this great nation, and this great nation is built up upon immigrants. There is a legal form of fashion. My parents, my father, he came correctly, became a United States citizen. He knows the structure. He understands. He served in the military in Mexico. He came out here. He did it the right way. He was back in the days, they were able to come in as with the permits and getting seasonal occupational work and job, and even the government up until recently gave them benefit to where they qualified per them doing their job legally, and then immigration where it's misconstrued illegally on purpose. Illegally is what's left out of the entire picture. Mm-hmm. No one's against immigrants. Just like I just
well, few people are, but most of the complaints that you hear from people like myself and on this platform, we consider them two completely different things. Consensual immigration versus illegal immigration makes all the difference in the world. It's like sex. Consensual sex, best thing in the world. Non-consensual sex, worst thing in the world.
Well, there's always a right way and a wrong way, and everyone that chooses to do the wrong way and take advantage of it, it's for a convenience factor, and that right there is totally unacceptable. And accepting the fact that there's money being used for the incorrect is, I know.
But to your original point, Felix, yes, this country was made of immigrants. But I know when my immigrants came here from England, or I know specifically like the Irish side of my family came here in 1868. You know what he didn't have waiting on him? He didn't get free health care at hospitals. He didn't get a free school to send his kids to. There was no food stamps. There was no Social Security. There was no Section 8. There was no Medicare, Medicaid. There was none of that. He had to cover it all. And you know what? A big chunk of the people who came here originally went back. They thought it was going to be easy. They thought it was going to be some kind of cakewalk. And some of them got kicked in the teeth when it happened, and they decided not to stay. So now we're not even encouraging the least robust immigrants to leave. We're encouraging them to stay. The freeloaders. Nikki in Springtown, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
Hi,
Hi.
My husband and I both work, and we both pay a lot of money in health insurance for 5 kids and our spouse. And it is ridiculous that we pay high premiums. And I had a child that wasn't feeling well and ended up being an emergency. Went to the emergency room, looked at my card, and saw that the copay was $950.
Good Lord.
Well, being in a pinch, I have no idea what to do. So what do? Look at my card, look at what I've heard before that they say cash pay. And so I said, I know it's not nice, but listen, there's people that don't have insurance. So I said cash pay, and they said $250. So how do we pay? My copay that I pay insurance every month is $950 copay, but illegals can come and get free medical and get their bills paid for, and I have to pay.
Well, why don't you quit complaining, racist? Just pay up.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It has nothing to do with racism. It's that the people.
That's what you'll get. You'll get accused of either being a racist, fascist, Nazi, sexist, bigot, homophobe. You'll get accused of something, and it'll always be impugning your character. They don't have the argument on how, well, economically this makes sense or ethically this is the right thing to do. No, you just don't have any empathy. You're just a mean person, Nikki.
So what do? Do I go bankrupt trying to get my child care in the emergency room when she needs it? Or do I have to lie and say I am a cash pay when I do have insurance, but it's going to cost me my monthly payment, and then a deductible? It makes zero sense.
No,
but illegals can come and get it.
Hey, just tell them you're an illegal. The only thing they lose is your medical history if you don't have to give them your ID or whatever. Just say, no, I'm an illegal. From where? Europe? I don't know. Just give me my free stuff. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. It's kind of sobering finding out just how bad illegals are ripping you off through the healthcare system, isn't it? Through the education system, through all the other entitlements. It's a big kick in the teeth. How long are you going to take this? I'll remind you about the Rhino list coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Who thinks this is sustainable? Who is more concerned about illegals getting free health care than your property tax bill, your sales tax bill, all the taxes that you're paying? They care more about them than you, the taxpayer. Bobby in Athens, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
I think you should make them pay cash, just like they have to do in their own country, and pay the amount that us uninsured Americans have to pay. You know, it costs $125 to walk into urgent care here in the United States. And 11 months ago, when I was in Mexico, it cost me 50 pesos for the same kind of facility at 17 to 1. What is that, $2.50? 4 months ago, in the Philippines, it cost me $5 to go to a walk-in clinic. Don't give them a bill. Don't send them a bill because it ain't going to get paid. Make them pay cash up front, just like they do in their own countries. And I've also been to a clinic in Honduras.
All right,
it cost me $5.
Bobby, you can't do that. You can't. If I come in and I've been stabbed, I don't have the money.
That's true too.
Yeah, they don't let you. They don't just let you die out. All you got to do is say, I don't have the money. They're going to treat you anyway, and then they'll send you a bill. But if you're illegal, it never reaches you. You know, you have a fake Social Security number. They can't ruin your credit score. You don't have to, and they know they don't have to pay because all the other illegals figured it out years ago. They're like, just don't pay. Just don't give them your info. Don't give them.
Yeah, just don't pay.
Yeah,
just don't pay. They know that. They know that. So that, stop doing it. Cut them all off of everything. They don't deserve anything anyway. They are not here legally.
Who is the person that is arguing against this, Bobby? Who's the one standing out there saying, well, you just got to treat them, and if they're not going to pay, then that's just, the price of doing business. We either got to charge that to the other customers or write it off to the taxpayers. Why aren't these people calling in? I want to hear from them.
Yeah, exactly. I call them libtards. Thank you. Have a great day, hon. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bobby in Athens. So the question comes, which side are you on? And that was a viral video that I played a few months ago when this whole Trump administration was starting out. That was something that they were trying to get to catch on. Like, which side are you on? Are you on the side of the fascists, the Nazis, the literally Hitler? Are you on the side of those of us with empathy who care for our fellow human beings, who are thoughtful and nice and good and generous?
Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Tell me, which side are you on? Which side are you on? We'll fight again.
Dude, this goes on for like 3 minutes. We're not going to listen to the whole thing. But that's a great question. Which side are you on? Are you on... God, that lady can't sing. Are you on the side of Luigi Mangione or the CEO he murdered? Are you on the side of the MS-13 Maryland father? Is that which side you're on? Or are you on the side of the victims of his crimes? Are you running down to El Salvador to go get him out of prison while you ignored your constituents who are in prison here in America for every other cause, J6 included? Are you a judge who's hiding a Tren de Aragua member in your guest house in Las Cruces? Whose side are you on? I mean, they keep doing the wrong side every time. Who didn't hear the Jussie Smollett case and in 5 seconds go, oh, that's fake? And here you have, I mean, even locally, like Carmelo versus Metcalf. How could you possibly choose wrong in that one? But they can't stop it. They can't stop themselves constantly. Which side are you on? Oh, and I'm meant to tell you about the rhino list. There's not a whole lot we can do about these goobers in Austin right now. What we can do is identify them, remember it. I documented it in the rhino list. It's available at WBAP.com, but it's scrolled way down. So if you want the link, let me know. I'll put it up or I'll send it back to you in an email or reply in a Facebook message or whatever. But we have the list and I have a map with the list so you can know if you live in a district where you need to vote differently next time. And that's all we can do is try and primary out the fake Republicans who are siding with the Democrats and giving them a new scholarship program that will take your taxpayer dollars and give it to non-citizens. Fantastic job, right? Which side are you on, Dustin Burrows? This is James in Dallas. Oh, another James in Dallas. Yeah, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
Yeah, I was just wanting to comment on the whole healthcare system and all. I worked in ERs and on ambulances for decades in this county. And all they're obligated to do is to make sure that you're not having a life-threatening emergency. Beyond that, they owe you nothing. However, they do take care of you, like you said. But there's no obligation to that, but no one's... And I think largely that has to do with the kickbacks that they're getting from the government when they show all these people that they treated that they didn't get paid for.
Yeah, understood. We got to cut off that gravy train, James in Dallas. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that.